Welcome back to Witness Richness. It's your boy JCP. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. And I am super excited about this week's video where I'm going to be breaking down my second investment property and show you the cash flow I got from that deal. But if I were to stop there at how much money I made, I'd be doing you a huge disservice. We're going to talk about exit strategy, how I got my down payment money back in 6 months, down payment money, where it came from, and structuring the deal, how I was able to have the seller give me over $12,000 in credits on that deal. So if you want to learn actionable steps on how to buy an investment property with no money out of pocket, actually get paid to close, stay tuned. Okay, so I'm back at the whiteboard. Now, there are a few different factors that makes this deal work that kind of like makes it a little difficult, but I want to break this down for you as slowly and as clearly as possible. So we're gonna start off first with the actual deal and what made me so eager to even want to raise the capital to buy the deal, right? So it was a 6-unit building for $175,000. Now, 6 units, 5 units plus is considered commercial lending. Commercial lending usually requires 20 to 30% down. In this case, it was 20% down. So the purchase price was $175,000 minus my down payment of $35,000. We had a mortgage of $140,000. Amortized over 25 years, my actual mortgage payment on that deal was about $800 per month. Now, a 6-unit building that the mortgage is only $800 a month, I smell money. I'm already eager. Let's go. Let's keep on going. The rent roll on that property was $2,900 per month when I bought it, which means the average rent per door was about $450 to $500, which is really low in that area. I already knew that those rents were really low and that I'd be able to raise those rents in that rent roll to at least $3,700 per month, which is exactly what I did, because in that area, 1 and 2 bedrooms range from $650 to $750 when the person I bought the building from had those rent rolls really low. Here goes my expenses, which I asked the seller to provide trailing 12s for or trailing 6s for, pretty much just verifying that the water bill, taxes, insurance, electric, those expenses are what they actually say they are. Now, in this case, when you go ahead and go ahead and add up your mortgage and all your expenses, that totals to $1,640 per month. Now, with my new rent roll of $3,700 per month, minus all my expenses on the actual property and the mortgage, totaled up to $1,640 per month. So subtract $1,640 from $3,070, we have the cash flow or the actual leftover of $2,060 per month. Now, that is a great deal. Multiply $2,060 per month times 12. That's about, off the top of my head, 24,720. Yeah, I'm a math guy. So that right there was about $25,000 a year. Meanwhile, I'm only putting down $35,000. Now, here's what makes that deal a lot sweeter. At that point in time, that 6-unit for $175 was the least expensive house on the market. There were other 6 families comparable to that one at that point in time that ranged from $225 to $275. Meanwhile, I'm buying it for $175. So we're talking $50,000 to $100,000 in equity right off the rip from the purchase price. It made me so eager to get the down payment to get this deal together. So let's talk about the down payment. And writing it all down may be a little bit too much. So let's talk about it. In this deal, I needed $35,000 for my down payment. And at that point in time, I did not have $35,000. I had pretty much about $500 in my name. But this was a deal that I could not pass up on. So I actually started a business. I started a new business, which took me about 5 minutes to go on my Secretary of State website, register for a new LLC, go to the IRS website, get a new EIN number, which is a employer identification number, which is separate from your social security number. Okay, so I got business credit, which is separate from my personal credit. I started a business and received business credit cards. I converted the business credit cards to cash through a series of balance transfers from my personal accounts from the business credit cards. That whole process cost me about $1,200 in fees, but it was not out of pocket. So again, I converted business credit cards to cash. And those business credit cards, when they were new, they offered me 0% interest for the first 6 to 18 months. Now keep in mind, this was about 4 cards. I had 2 Bank of America cards, I had an American Express card, and I had a Discover card. I was able to transfer about $38,000 of cash from credit. You understand that? I converted credit into cash. That was a series that I went through to acquire this down payment funds. That is like a lot of, I'm giving you a lot right now, but you can do it as well. You start an LLC through your Secretary of State website, you get a new EIN number, which is a separate from your Social Security number, and if you have decent credit, those 2 right there will allow you to get business credit. Now, when you have business credit, you can use it to invest in businesses. I only recommend you borrow money to make money. That's it. I'm not borrowing money to buy jewelry or buy anything that I don't need. You borrow money to make money. And if it's not that, then you don't borrow it at all. So I converted business credit to cash, and that allowed me to get into this deal. Now, with that being said, those business credit cards had 0% interest for the first 6 to 12 months. But they did have a minimum balance. I believe it was, if I remember correctly, it was about $400, right? It was about $400. All 4 credit cards added up with no interest. My minimum payment was about $400. So now you're like, okay, you added on a debt service to this deal now. So it's not cash flowing $2,060 per month. You have a debt service with those business credit cards that's going to cost you $400 per month. So at that point in time, the actual deal was making me $1,660 per month times 12, which was just about $20,000 a year. Keep in mind, I'm now making $20,000 a year. I have an asset that the tenants are paying down its equity and paying for itself, and I had no money out of pocket at this point in time. This is an amazing deal. And I already had in a built-in $50,000 to $100,000 in equity, which means my exit strategy. That's the next step to this process here. These credit cards aren't going to be 0% interest forever. So how am I getting out of this 0% credit card? Because if you know anything about credit cards, they offer you 0% interest for the first 12 to 18 months. But after that 12, 18 months, those interest rates on each card are going to range from anywhere from 10 to 25%. So you want to make sure you have an exit strategy. And that's what it's about. And that's where it's like knowing that know-how. Knowing that you already have $50,000 to $100,000 built in equity, and now you done raise the rents, which when you raise the rent on a commercial property, when you raise the rents or decrease the expenses, it makes the property worth more. Okay, so when you raise rents and decrease expenses, the property is worth more. So again, just want to make another note on making the property more valuable. It's not just increasing the rents and decreasing the expenses, but you can actually find different ways to increase the income. Increasing the income overall will make the property more valuable. So adding wash machines to the basement or storage space, or maybe the late fees, or whatever you can actually prove that's residual additional income will make the property more valuable. So back to the exit strategy, right? The exit strategy that I used on that deal was a cash out refinance. And what that means is you refinance your property, and whatever's left over between your old mortgage and your new mortgage is cash out to you. So in this particular deal, I used a cash out refinance with another bank that offered me a 75% loan to value. What that means is now that I bought the property and I made it more valuable by increasing the rents, right? We have new rent roll. And plus, at the end of the day, that property in particular already had meat on the bone, which already had built-in equity. But now we have increased the rents and we made it more valuable. So 6 months later, after making on-time payments, I went to another credit lender and I asked them for a cash out refinance. At that point in time, they gave me an appraisal. The appraisal came back at $260,000. So $260,000 times 75%, because the banks will loan me 75%, is $195,000. So the banks say the property is worth $260,000. We'll give you a mortgage or a note on that property for $95,000. I said, okay, that's fine for me, because remember, I bought the property for $175,000 minus your down payment. The mortgage is only $140,000. So that means your new mortgage minus your old mortgage, well, $195,000 minus $140,000 is $55,000 cash out, tax-free, to my name. You take the $55,000, you pay back those lines of credit, those credit cards 6 months later before the interest even starts occurring. And then you take the other $20,000 and you buy jewelry and shit you don't need. I'm joking, right? You want to make sure you put yourself in a position to keep on acquiring cash flow. Me personally, I don't really care about large amounts of cash. I'm more of a cash flow is king. So if I have a large amount of cash, I'm pretty much going to pile it up for my next investment. But once you pay back these credit cards, come across a deal similar to this one, pull out your private capital partners and jump all over it. Listen, so now that we got the cash out refinance, which is the exit strategy, let's talk about the offer really quickly and how I structured that deal. Now, I'm a big believer in win-win when I'm doing business. So on this particular deal, the seller listing price for $175,000. I gave him his asking price. Right off the rip, when I wrote the offer up, I put in two things. I put a contingency for the mortgage and a contingency for the inspection. After going through that inspection, once again, with the lights comb, once again, going through that inspection with a magnifying glass, looking for any issues or any things that I can actually go back at the seller and ask for credits for, I actually found about $7,500 worth of damages or things that I wanted repaired in the property. At this point, that was an investor who was actually liquidating his portfolio. He didn't want any parts of fixing anything on the property. So he went ahead and wrote me a check for $7,000 for those repairs. So between the closing credit for the closing cost and the check for repairs, I got the seller to pay me $12,000 for that deal. So I got paid $12,000 for that deal. Now keep in mind, when you close on deals like these, you also get the last month's rent, any security deposits, and the current rents. So usually whenever I structure a deal, I try to have closing somewhere in the first 5 to 10 days of the month. So between the 5th and the 10th of the month, I ask for those closing dates. And I also ask that you collect the rents and bring them to closing. So when I leave out of there, I have the last month's rent, plus security deposits, plus the current rent, plus whatever credit we closed on. So you might leave 15 grand. Listen, there's always ways to structure a deal that it could be a win-win. I didn't ask for anything out of the ordinary or anything too crazy on this deal. And for me, it was a solid win. So again, cashed out refinance, paid down my credit cards, got my $20,000 in my pocket, plus at that closing table, had closing credits, plus the rents collected from that day. This is what real estate is all about. So much opportunity. And the reason why I share this information with you is because I hope you find value in it and you can go out and start making some deals of your own. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I invite you, let's grow together. I'll see you on the next video.